Have you ever been completely obsessed with a TV show? The kind where you're counting days between episodes, telling friends they have to watch it, only for one character to show up and ruin everything? Sometimes it's not bad writing, or a terrible ending, or a studio meddling. Sometimes it's just one person, one decision, one misfire that tips the entire show over the edge. Today, we're going deep into the characters who destroyed beloved TV shows, and how sometimes a single bad move can crash an entire empire. So sit back, grab some popcorn, and maybe brace yourself, because your favorite show might just make the list. Let's start with a classic. Scrappy-Doo, Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? Scooby-Doo was a cultural phenomenon, quirky mysteries, goofy humor, and a lovable gang. But in 1979, executives decided the show needed fresh energy, so they introduced Scrappy-Doo. The idea? Appeal to younger kids, make the gang more relatable by adding a plucky, pint-sized puppy. The result? Fans hated him. Scrappy was obnoxious, brash, and completely out of sync with the laid-back vibe of the original gang. He didn't fit the formula, he hijacked it. Ratings dropped, fans turned on the show, and though Scooby-Doo survived Scrappy's era, it limped for years with that stain on its legacy. Scrappy didn't just ruin a few episodes, he became the poster child for how one bad character can damage an entire brand. April Nardini, Gilmore Girls. Gilmore Girls built its reputation on rapid-fire dialogue, charming small-town antics, and the central relationship between Lorelai and Rory. Enter April Nardini. April was introduced late in the show's run as Luke's secret daughter, a revelation that obliterated the show's core relationships. Luke's dynamic with Lorelai, a slow-burn fan-favorite love story, was derailed by sudden custody battles, miscommunication, and frankly, bad writing decisions. April wasn't just unnecessary, she was a plot device, and the show never recovered from her arrival. The later seasons felt strained, and when the revival hit Netflix years later, fans still hadn't forgiven the show for how April had derailed everything. Cousin Oliver, the Brady Bunch. If you've ever heard the phrase jumping the shark, you know TV fans are sensitive to desperate moves. But the Brady Bunch gave us a different version, the Cousin Oliver syndrome. Introduced in the final season, Oliver was a blatant attempt to revive the show's aging charm with a new, younger character. The writers hoped he'd attract younger viewers. Instead, audiences rejected him immediately. Cousin Oliver wasn't just unpopular, he symbolized the show's creative exhaustion. Shortly after his arrival, the Brady Bunch was canceled. Dawn Summers' Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Buffy was groundbreaking, witty, dark, smartly plotted. But in season 5, we met Dawn Summers, Buffy's previously unknown sister. To be fair, the showrunners tried to integrate her with an elaborate mystical backstory, but fans weren't having it. Dawn was whiny, impulsive, and often felt like she existed purely to create drama. The tone shifted. Buffy changed from a warrior to a babysitter. And while the show still had high points, the introduction of Dawn marked a noticeable decline in Buffy's once consistent greatness. Olly, Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones had a sprawling cast of heroes, villains, and morally gray icons. Then came Olly, a minor character, sure, but a massively controversial one. In a show that already had fan-favorite villains like Joffrey and Ramsay, Olly became the most hated character after that moment, betraying Jon Snow at the Wall. He didn't have the nuance of the established villains. He wasn't complex, he was just a plot device, a hammer to deliver betrayal without real emotional groundwork. Worse, he embodied the show's later issues, rushed character arcs, and lazy writing shortcuts. Olly didn't ruin Game of Thrones alone, but he was an early sign of cracks that would eventually split the series apart. Mandy Hampton, The West Wing. The West Wing is a masterclass in political drama. But even it had missteps, and one of the biggest was Mandy Hampton. Brought in during the first season as a political consultant and potential romantic interest, Mandy was abrasive and disconnected from the main cast's chemistry. Worse, she was badly underwritten. One episode she's essential, the next she's barely there. By season 2, she vanished without explanation. Today, going to Mandyville is a West Wing fan term for characters who disappear without reason. And Mandy remains a textbook example of how a poorly conceived character can break the flow of an ensemble cast. Nikki and Paulo, Lost. Lost was a cultural juggernaut, ambitious, serialized storytelling at its finest. But even Lost had missteps. In Season 3, fans met Nikki and Paulo, two background survivors suddenly thrust into major storylines. Audiences hated them. They didn't feel earned, they didn't click with the core group, and worse, their introduction felt like a distraction from the show's main mysteries. Fan backlash was so intense that the writers killed them off in a Buried Alive episode, a rare case of a show admitting, yeah, this was a mistake. Nikki and Paulo's arc is short but infamous, proof that even great shows can stumble hard with character introductions. Andrea, The Walking Dead. The Walking Dead had no shortage of divisive characters. But Andrea, she's in a league of her own. In the comics, Andrea is a beloved sniper and a crucial member of the group. On TV, she became frustratingly inconsistent, often making baffling decisions that alienated viewers. Fans grew tired of her moralizing poor judgment and the way she dragged down the pacing of an already slow show. Eventually, even the showrunners seemed to give up. Her death felt more like mercy than tragedy. Andrea stands as a warning. If you mishandle a fan-favorite character, the backlash can be brutal. Randy Pearson, That 70s Show. That 70s Show had a nearly perfect ensemble until the final season. With Eric and Kelso gone, the showrunners introduced Randy Pearson, a bland, smiley love interest for Donna. Audiences rejected him instantly. He lacked the edge, charm, and chemistry of the original cast. Worse, he felt like a replacement rather than an addition. The final season limped along, and while Randy wasn't the only problem, he became the face of the show's creative decline. Marissa Cooper, The O.C. The O.C. was a teen drama sensation. Sharp, funny, full of heart. But one character always polarized fans, Marissa Cooper. Early on, she was sympathetic, the troubled girl next door. But as the show progressed, Marissa became a black hole of drama. Her storylines became increasingly unbelievable, melodramatic, and exhausting. Fans grew tired of her endless cycle of bad decisions, worse boyfriends, and even worse consequences. Eventually, the writers killed her off. And for many fans, it was too late. The damage was done. Martin Keamy Lost, bonus villain. Lost had incredible villains, Ben Linus, Charles Widmore, then came Keamy, the human equivalent of a blunt object. He wasn't intriguing, he wasn't layered, he was just violent. While he served his purpose as a mid-level antagonist, he represented a shift in Lost's tone, away from mystery and towards simple brutality. Skyler White, Breaking Bad, fan perspective. Let's be clear, Skyler White is a great character, complex, morally conflicted. But from a fan perspective, Skyler is one of the most hated characters in TV history. Despite her realistic portrayal, audiences turned on her hard, blaming her for Walter White's troubles, resenting her for not being a ride-or-die partner. It says a lot about TV audiences and about how tricky writing realistic characters can be. Skyler didn't ruin Breaking Bad, but the audience reaction to her shows how even a great character can become a show's lightning rod. One bad character can wreck a show. Sometimes they're a desperate attempt to save a sinking ship. Sometimes they're a bold experiment that fails. Sometimes they're just a misread of what audiences want. But the pattern is clear. When a show forgets what made it great, when it chases trends, sacrifices chemistry, or fumbles the writing, audiences feel it. And the damage can be permanent. So what do you think? Which character ruined a show for you? Drop it in the comments. Let's compare notes and start a therapy group. And if you enjoyed this breakdown of TV's biggest character fails, hit like, subscribe, and ring that bell. Not every character is a disaster, but YouTube's algorithm sure can be. Thanks for watching, and remember, sometimes it only takes one person to destroy everything.